What I will say is just speaking specifically to that situation, like there's a time and place for everything, right? And I think some people may not understand that. Like there's a time and place to, like you said, be with the homies and stuff like that. I feel like you can do that in a lot of different settings, but sometimes that version of me, I'll speak for myself, like that version of me isn't needed in certain environments, right? Um, but it can be a point in time where it's uncomfortable. And I will even say this too, like we all code switch for lack of a better term. Like there's certain environments where you'll see Reggie Jennings, the professional, right? And there's sometimes you'll see Montana, a controlled version of Montana, right? So I think just overall figuring out what environment you're in, where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do, where you're trying to be, um, is important. Because obviously for Ludacris too, right? Like there's consequences, good and bad, right? For things that we may say and or do, regardless of who you are. So Ludacris in that scenario may have thought, like, okay, what could this potentially do to X, Y, and Z opportunity or future opportunities, right? Not saying he would never speak what he truly feels, right? But in certain environments that calls for certain things, sometimes it doesn't call for certain things too. So
So the piggyback off the whole code switch,
mhm.
I feel like sometimes only people of color code switch. I don't really think Johnny, Mikey, I don't think they code switching like that. A lot of times when I see like, high professionals who are white,
Mhm.
they have a personality to them where it was like, all right, it's distinct, where it's not like, it's cookie cutter, where it's like, say if I go up into my hotel chain and I become like, a high exec, I gotta kind of talk a different way. I gotta kind of walk a different way where it's almost like I'm taking away from my character just to seem kind of normal. Where I
Sure.
also had situations where I interacted normal with some of my higher ups and they liked me more because it was like, oh, this dude actually is a
Right.
person.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's code switching. It gets a bad rap. But I think it's sometimes, and I'm guilty of this. So there can be some kind of fear associated with, like, man, is who I am truly going to be acceptable in this position, right? Like, I know a quick funny story. One time at work, I was talking to a colleague, and just for context, I work in real estate development. Work with it's a completely woman owned company, and it's about 10 of us, majority women. I'm the only black guy, one or two guys. I was talking to an older woman on the phone, and I was helping her out with something. One of my colleagues, and kid you not, we got done ready to wrap the call up, and I was like, all right, bet I'll take care of it. And I got the phone. I was like, I know I did not just tell this 70-year-old woman, white woman, I bet. Like I was like, oh God, but it was no issue. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me specifically, I've learned to kind of combat that fear. You know what I'm saying? Even if it happens on accident, for lack of a better term. So, and then too, it's almost think of like I'll push back on this when you said that you feel like our community is the only one that has to code switch.
Well, people of color. I'm not saying
Sorry,
I'm
yeah,
talking all like
yes,
color. Yes.
people of color have to code switch, right? I think yes, and also I do believe that um, our white counterparts they code switch as well too. Like I'm pretty sure you've seen them in additional settings, or I know I have, right? I've seen them at work, and then even at work parties. When I worked at a former institution, hey, the Christmas party lit. I'm like, there's no way she's behaving like this. There's no way, and that's really her. But on Monday, Tuesday, hey, good morning, Rich. How you doing? All this stuff, right? So I think for us, because unfortunately, obviously, we're in a land that was taken over, right? And those that did take it over by force implemented certain what was deemed acceptable,
Mhm.
right? And I think for us, recognizing that majority of the time, who we are, not all people will accept it, but I think as we continue to progress as a society, we'll start be recognizing that, hey, like I can actually be my true self in these situations. And sometimes I tell people like, look, test the waters, see what happens, right? Like, and I'm not saying go out there and get to, if you cuss around your homies all the time. That's not probably the proper thing to do, or obviously that's an aggressive statement or example. But if somebody likes talking about anime, wrestling, bring them up in conversation. You feel me? And kind of see what's going on. So
So it's funny you say that because I'm a manager in my field, in my space.
mhm,
And when I hire people, I always tell them like, hey, like don't be who you think I want you to be. Like I want to know
right,
who you are because let me decide whether this can work or not.
yeah.
Because I don't want you to be the perfect person during this interview, and then over time we peel layers back, and I realize